A new report shows wildfires accounted for nearly half of all forest destruction in 2024. Data from the University of Maryland and the World Resources Institute shows approximately 17 million acres of forest around the world disappeared last year. Researchers say that's the equivalent to an area that's nearly the size of Panama at a rate of 18 soccer fields per minute. According to the report, the countries that saw the biggest losses in 2024 were Brazil, Bolivia, Colombia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Most of this destruction was caused by wildfires and droughts. For more, let's bring in Elizabeth Goldman. She's the co-director of Global Forest Watch, an online forest monitoring platform. Thanks for being here. So as we just mentioned, there seems to be a concentration of forest loss in Latin America. Why is that?
Yeah, exactly. So we saw a record-shattering amount of forest loss in 2024. We know that that was mostly due to fire, especially in Latin America, as you said. In a typical year, agriculture is actually a key driver of deforestation, especially across the tropics. But in 2024, for the first time on our record, it was actually due to fires. We know that these are actually human-caused fires. Fires are not part of the natural ecosystem in tropical rainforests, and it's basically people and farmers starting fires to clear land for agriculture, for food production. And we also know that in 2024, this was the hottest year on record. It was also an El Nino year, which is a weather phenomenon that can lead to hot and dry conditions, and these came together to cause devastating fires with real impacts on humans, for their livelihoods, for health, for biodiversity, and for climate change as well.
So it's clear that climate change exacerbates forest loss. Does forest loss exacerbate climate change?
Yes, exactly. So forests play a critical role in regulating climate. We know that forests are carbon sinks. That means that they store carbon. They take carbon from the atmosphere and they store it in their trunks, in their leaves, in their roots. This is carbon that would otherwise be in the atmosphere. But when it's cut down, when forests are burned especially, all of this stored carbon gets released into the atmosphere. And we actually see this scary loop where, forests are burned, catch fire and are burned. All of that stored carbon is released into the atmosphere. It can exacerbate climate and lead to more hot and dry conditions, which can lead to more forest fires and so on.
A scary loop indeed. In 2021, leaders from more than 140 countries, including the U.S., pledged to halt and reverse forest loss by 2030. Where are we in that goal?
Yeah, so it's clear that we are not on track to meet that goal, but there are a number of solutions that can work, right? And I think if we act now, and clearly the data is a collective call to action for everybody. Everybody needs to sit up and pay attention to the data this year. But there are proven solutions that can work, and we can't lose hope, right? So one thing that can happen is that we need to see sustained political commitment from our leaders to protect forests. We know that this works in a number of countries. We've seen this in the data from Indonesia and Malaysia, for example. That was actually a bright spot in the data in 2024. Both of those countries saw declines because of commitments from governments and other actions as well. But those were some success stories. We also need to see better forest fire prevention and response measures as well, so that we can prevent fires from happening and respond to them better when they do. As our Earth warms, this is only going to become an increasingly important problem and something to address. And then finally, we need to really double down on zero deforestation commitments and legislation so that we can remove deforestation from the production of our food, since that was such a key driver. And if we can, implement some of these solutions, there's no silver bullet, but if we can implement some of these solutions, I think we'll start to see real progress in the coming years.
All right, Elizabeth Goldman, thank you.